Marcus Smith stood alone at the speaking platform, his heart pounding against his chest as he faced the vast chamber of the Galactic Council. 10,000 alien representatives filled the towering seats that stretched up into the darkness like an endless wall. Their eyes, some glowing, some multifaceted, some merely dark spots on strange faces, all fixed upon the sole human in the room. Distinguished members of the council, Marcus began, his voice steady despite his fear. Humanity has done nothing to deserve this. His words echoed through the massive chamber, bouncing off the crystalline walls that had witnessed 3,000 years of peaceful deliberation. The Grand Speaker, a tall being with silver skin that rippled like water, raised all four of its hands. The evidence speaks for itself, Human Representative Smith. Your species has advanced too quickly. In merely 50 years since discovering faster-than-light travel, you have already begun improving upon our designs. Marcus glanced at the holographic display floating beside him. It showed Earth's latest breakthrough, a fusion drive that was 30% more efficient than the Council's standard model. What should have been a proud moment for humanity had become evidence in their trial. Progress is not a crime, Marcus argued, looking around the chamber. Every species here has the right to improve, to grow, to threaten the peace we have maintained for 3 millennia. A voice boomed from the upper tiers. It belonged to Representative Gold, a being made of shifting metallic plates. Your kind achieved in decades what took others thousands of years. This is not natural. This is not safe. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Marcus watched as species that had been Earth's trading partners just days ago now turned their faces away from him. The betrayal stung worse than the fear. The Grand Speaker's surface rippled more violently, a sign of agitation. We will now vote on Resolution 47B. The question before the Council is this: does humanity represent a grave enough threat to warrant military intervention? Marcus felt his mouth go dry. Military intervention. Such a clean phrase for what they really meant. War. The first war the Council had declared in 3,000 years. The voting began. Each representative pressed their choice into the panels before them. The massive central hologram filled with points of light. Red for war, blue for peace. Marcus watched in horror as red lights overwhelmed the scattered blue ones. The vote stands at 97% in favor. The Grand Speaker announced. Resolution 47B passes. Human Representative Smith, you have 1 hour to transmit a final message to your government before we sever all quantum communication links with Earth. Marcus gripped the edges of the platform. You're making a mistake. Humanity doesn't want war. We only want to help make the galaxy a better place for everyone. A better place. Representative Gold called out. You mean a place shaped by human chaos? No, we have seen what unchecked progress leads to. Order must be maintained. As guards approached to escort him to the communication chamber, Marcus looked one last time at the assembled council. Something about their unity struck him as wrong. In all his years as ambassador, he had never seen the council agree so quickly on anything. It was almost as if the guards prodded him forward before he could finish the thought. But as they marched him through the gleaming corridors, Marcus's mind raced. He had 1 hour to warn Earth, 1 hour to transmit everything he had seen and everything he suspected, 1 hour before humanity would face the combined might of a galaxy that feared them. He smiled grimly as they reached the communication room. The council feared human progress. Then they really weren't going to like what humanity had been working on in secret, because Marcus knew something the council didn't. Earth had been preparing for this day ever since they discovered they weren't alone in the universe. The real question wasn't whether humanity would survive. The real question was whether the council would survive what they were about to start. Admiral Jane West stood at the window of her office on Mars Base 1, watching the red dust storms sweep across the planet's surface. The peace of the moment shattered as every screen in the room suddenly lit up with emergency alerts. A quantum message was coming in from the Galactic Council. Play message, she commanded, her voice firm despite the dread building in her stomach. Marcus Smith's face appeared on the main screen, his expression grim. "Admiral West, we have 72 hours. The Council has voted for war." Marcus spoke quickly, his words carrying the weight of a death sentence. "They're coming with everything they have. But there's something wrong here. The vote, it was too perfect, too unified. I think." Static cut through his words for a moment. "I think they've been planning this for a long time." Jane's hand curled into a fist. She had warned the government this might happen. That's why they had built Mars Base 1 in the first place. Not as a simple colony, but as humanity's secret fortress. "Lieutenant Davis," she called out. The young officer appeared at her door instantly. "Send the Alpha signal to all bases. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." Across the solar system, hidden facilities sprang to life. Beneath the ice of Europa, massive hangars opened to reveal ships that no alien eye had ever seen. In the clouds of Venus, cloaked platforms powered up weapon systems that the Council would think impossible. Even in the depths of Mercury's scorching caves, automated factories began producing more of humanity's secret weapons. Jane walked to the central command table, where a holographic map of the solar system flickered to life. "Show me Defense Plan Omega," she ordered. The map filled with blue dots representing Earth's hidden forces. There were thousands of them. "Play the rest of Marcus's message," she said. Marcus's face reappeared. "They think we're too advanced, too unpredictable." "But Admiral," I saw fear in their eyes. Not just fear of what we might become, but fear of what we might discover. His image flickered again. "They've been keeping secrets. Big ones. I'm sending you everything I could download from their archives in the short time I had. Look for files about something called the Great Suppression. I think." The message cut off completely. Jane stood silent for a moment, processing everything. Then she pressed a button on her uniform. "This is Admiral West to all Sol Defense Forces. As of this moment, we are at war with the Galactic Council. This is what we've been preparing for. This is why we built ships they don't know about, weapons they can't predict, and defenses they can't imagine." She paused, looking at the map again. "For 10 years, we've been taking their technology and making it better. For 10 years, we've been hiding our true strength. They think they're coming to fight a primitive species. Let's show them how wrong they are." Across the solar system, ships began moving into position. The quantum mines, invisible to standard sensors, formed a deadly web around key approach vectors. AI-driven defense platforms, far more advanced than anything the Council had approved, awakened from their dormant state. "Admiral," Lieutenant Davis called out, "the first wave of Council ships will arrive at Pluto's orbit in 68 hours. Jane nodded. "Right where we want them." She turned to face the officers who had gathered in her command center. "The Council thinks they're ending 3,000 years of peace, but they're wrong. They're ending 3,000 years of stagnation, of control, of lies." She pointed to the holographic display, where the first dots representing the Council's fleet were appearing at the edge of the solar system. "Humanity never wanted this war, but if they're going to force it on us, then let's show them exactly why they were right to fear us." The command center erupted in activity as final preparations began. In just 68 hours, the Council would learn that declaring war on humanity was the biggest mistake they had made in 3,000 years. High Commander Reed of the Stellar Collective stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Justice Eternal, as it led 10,000 ships toward the Sol system. His gray scales shifted in amusement as he studied the tactical display. The humans had only 50 years of space travel experience. This would be quick. "Sir," his second-in-command reported, "we're approaching the orbit of their outer planet, Pluto. No signs of defensive measures." Reed nodded. Of course there weren't. How could such a young species hope to defend an entire solar system? "Send the first wave forward. Let's show them the price of defying the Council's peace." 500 ships moved ahead of the main fleet. They passed Pluto's orbit without incident. Reed watched them progress, already planning his victory speech. Then everything went wrong. The space around the first wave ships suddenly lit up with thousands of tiny lights. Quantum mines, hidden in artificial pocket dimensions, appeared everywhere at once. Before any ship could react, the mines exploded with a force that shouldn't have been possible from such small devices. Impossible. Reed's scales turned pale. They can't have quantum mine technology. We never shared that with them. Sir, his sensor officer shouted, 300 ships lost in the first wave. And something's coming out of the ice domes on their moons. Reed watched in horror as massive battleships emerged from hidden bases across the solar system. They were unlike anything in the Council's records. Their hulls seemed to bend light around them, making them hard to target. Their weapons were a mix of familiar and completely alien designs. All ships, battle formations. Reed ordered, but it was already too late for neat formations. The human ships moved in ways that defied normal space combat tactics. Instead of staying in orderly groups, they split apart, each ship fighting independently. Their weapons changed mid-battle, adapting to whatever the Council ships tried to do. Sir, we're losing ships too fast. The tactical officer's voice shook. Their eye-targeting systems are better than ours. They're predicting our movements before we make them. A new hologram appeared on every ship in the Council fleet. A human female in a military uniform looked at them calmly. Reed recognized her from intelligence reports. Admiral West. This is your only warning, she said. You entered this war thinking we were primitive. Now you've lost a third of your fleet in the first 10 minutes. Retreat now or find out what else we've been working on while you weren't watching. Reed's scales flashed with rage. Never. All ships, launch everything we have. Show these upstarts the true might of the Council. The space between Mars and Jupiter turned into a graveyard of ships. Council energy beams met human plasma weapons. Standard shields crumbled against weapons that shouldn't have existed. And through it all, the human ships danced between their attacks with impossible grace. Sir, his second-in-command whispered, we've lost contact with 40% of the fleet. The humans, they're not just copying our technology. They're using things we've never seen before. Reed watched as another group of his ships disappeared in a flash of light. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were winning. In 3,000 years, no species had ever stood against the Council's full might. Yet here they were, being defeated by a race that had barely left their planet. All ships, he finally commanded, his voice heavy with disbelief. Retreat to the outer system. Regroup at Neptune's orbit. As his fleet pulled back, Reed stared at the tactical display. The humans hadn't pursued them. They didn't need to. They had made their point. Send a message to the Council, he ordered. Tell them we greatly underestimated humanity's capabilities, and request immediate reinforcements. He paused, his scales now completely white with fear. All of them. In the space behind his retreating fleet, the wreckage of Council ships drifted silently, a monument to humanity's first victory in an impossible war. Dr. Thomas Gray wiped sweat from his forehead as he dug through the ancient ruins on planet Beta 7. The Council's declaration of war had trapped him and his team on this remote world, far from Earth. But maybe that was a good thing, because what he had just found could change everything. Look at this, he called to his assistant, pointing his light at the wall of the underground chamber. Strange symbols covered the smooth metal surface, glowing faintly under the beam of his flashlight. These markings, they're from the Bright Ones. The Bright Ones, a species that had vanished 30,000 years ago, long before the Galactic Council existed. Their ruins dotted dozens of worlds, but no one had ever managed to read their language. No one until now. Thomas pressed his hand against a panel, and the wall hummed to life. Holographic images filled the chamber, showing scenes from the past. His translator device, a new invention that combined human eye with alien tech, began to decode the ancient language. "My God," he whispered as he read the translations. "They're talking about the council. But that's impossible. The council didn't exist back then." More images appeared. They showed a familiar scene, a young species advancing quickly, creating new technologies. Then came ships, thousands of them, attacking that species, destroying them, just like they were trying to do to Earth now. "Play that sequence again," Thomas ordered his device. The scene repeated, but this time he noticed something else. The attacking ships, they looked just like early versions of current council vessels. His hand shaking, Thomas connected to the ruins database. File after file loaded into his translator. The truth began to emerge, each revelation more shocking than the last. "The council. They've been doing this for 30,000 years, he said, his voice echoing in the chamber. Before they even called themselves the council, they were a group of elder species who decided to control the galaxy by stopping anyone else from advancing." The next set of files showed more attacks. More young species wiped out because they developed too quickly, because they dared to innovate, because they threatened the power of those who came before. "The bright ones tried to stop them," Thomas read. "That's why they vanished. They weren't destroyed by some ancient catastrophe like everyone believes. They were the first species to fight back against the ones who would become the council." His assistant looked nervously at the entrance. "But why? Why stop others from advancing?" Thomas pointed to another set of images. "Because the elder species were scared. They had reached the limits of their own understanding. When younger species started discovering things they couldn't grasp, making leaps they couldn't follow, they decided it was safer to keep everyone down than to risk losing their power." A final set of files played. They showed the bright ones hiding their technology across the galaxy, leaving clues for future species smart enough to find them. Species that might one day be strong enough to stand against the council. Species like humans. Thomas quickly connected to his emergency transmitter. The council might control most forms of communication, but his team had developed their own quantum channels. He had to get this information to Earth. "Admiral West," he spoke into the transmitter, "the war isn't just about us. The council, they've done this before. Many times, they destroy any species that advances too quickly. But we're the first ones who might be able to stop them." He looked at the final image the bright ones had left, a map showing similar ruins on other worlds. "And I think I know how. The bright ones left us their technology, hidden where the council would never find it, if we can reach the other sites in time." The lights in the chamber flickered. Above ground, alarms began to sound. Council ships had arrived in the system. Thomas grabbed his data cores. "We need to move. Now. If the council finds these ruins, they'll destroy them, just like they've destroyed every other trace of the species that came before." The race was on. Somewhere in the ruins, scattered across the galaxy, lay the key to defeating the council. The only question was whether humanity could find it in time. Admiral West stared at the message from Dr. Gray for the third time. The truth about the council changed everything. But right now, she had a war to fight. And she had just come up with a plan that would make the council regret ever challenging humanity. "Display all council supply lines," she commanded. The holographic map in Mars Command lit up with red lines showing the enemy's logistics network. 2 weeks of fighting had taught them a lot about how the council's military worked. "They think like a hive mind," she said to her gathered officers. 3,000 years of doing things the same way. They can't imagine anything else. A smile crossed her face. "So let's show them something new." The human fleet had been divided into 50 small groups, each led by an AI tactical system that could think faster than any organic commander. While the council kept their massive fleet together, humans would strike from every direction at once. "Launch Operation Scattered Storm," West ordered. Across the solar system, human ships vanished into quantum space. They reappeared at 50 different locations along the council's supply lines. The council's commanders didn't know where to look first. On the flagship of the Council's fleet, High Commander Reed watched in horror as alerts flooded his screens. Impossible. They're attacking everywhere at once. How can they coordinate such chaos? He didn't know that each human fleet was acting independently, their AI systems making split-second decisions without needing to consult anyone. It was something the Council would never try. Giving that much freedom to their ships went against everything they believed in. Back on Mars, West received an unexpected transmission. It came from a young alien species, the Star Walkers, who had joined the Council only 100 years ago. Admiral West, their representative, said, "We have watched your battles. You fight like nothing we have ever seen. Many of us think the Council was wrong to attack you. And what do you plan to do about that?" West asked, though she already guessed the answer. "We want to help. There are other young species like us. We're tired of being held back, of being told to stay in our place. The Council keeps saying they protect peace, but now we see the truth." More messages came in from other young species. They couldn't fight openly yet. The Council still had too much power. But they could pass information, disrupt supply lines, cause small delays that would add up to major problems for the Council. "Sir," Lieutenant Davis called out, "Dr. Gray's team has found 2 more ancient sites. They're recovering technology that even the Council doesn't have." West nodded. Everything was coming together. The human fleets were wreaking havoc on Council supply lines. Their new allies were causing chaos from within Council space, and soon they would have weapons that the Council couldn't possibly defend against. But the most powerful weapon wasn't the ancient technology or the AI ships or even their quantum weapons. It was something much simpler: change. Humans embraced it, worked with it, grew from it. The Council feared it, fought it, tried to stop it, and that fear was finally catching up to them. "Send word to all our forces," West commanded. The Council thought this war would be their chance to stop humanity from changing the galaxy. "Instead, we're going to use this war to free the galaxy from their control." She looked at the tactical display, where more and more Council supply bases were going dark as human ships struck them. The Council had started this war to keep things the same, but nothing would ever be the same again. "They wanted to stop change from coming to their galaxy," she said quietly. "But change isn't something you can stop. And humanity, we're the biggest change they've seen in 3,000 years. The war wasn't over, but for the first time, West could see the path to victory. And it would come not just from humanity's strength, but from everything the Council feared most: innovation, adaptation, and the unstoppable force of progress. Marcus Smith walked through the dark corridors of the Council's central archive, his footsteps silent thanks to stolen stealth technology. After escaping during the chaos of the first battle, he had spent weeks working his way back into the heart of Council space. What he found here would change everything. "Security patrol approaching," whispered the AI in his earpiece. Marcus pressed himself against the wall, activating his cloaking field. 2 guards walked past, their silver armor gleaming in the dim light. They never noticed the human standing inches away from them. Once they were gone, Marcus continued deeper into the archive. The Council kept their most important secrets here, in computers that were never connected to any network. The only way to access them was to be physically present. 3 minutes until the next patrol, the AI warned. Marcus reached the central computer core. He pulled out a small device, another gift from the Bright One's ruins that Dr. Gray had discovered. It could break any encryption, as long as you had direct access to the computer. "Show me everything," he whispered as he connected the device. "Show me what they've been hiding for 3,000 years. The computer's screens lit up. File after file appeared, each one more shocking than the last. Marcus read them all, his hands shaking with anger and disbelief. "The Council, they've barely invented anything new in 3,000 years, he said to himself. All their great technologies, they stole them from the species they destroyed. The files told the whole story. Whenever a young species developed something new, The council would attack them, destroy them, and then claim their inventions as their own. They kept the galaxy in check not through superior wisdom, but through theft and violence. 1 minute until patrol, the AI warned. Marcus kept reading. The Council's greatest fear wasn't that humanity would become too powerful. They were afraid because humans had started improving their stolen technologies. Humans didn't just copy, they understood, adapted, and made things better. Look at these dates, Marcus muttered. Quantum drive technology, stolen from the crystal mines. AI systems, taken from the Dreamweavers. Every major breakthrough credited to the Council. It's all stolen from species they wiped out. 30 seconds, the AI said. Marcus quickly copied everything to his quantum storage device. But just as he was about to disconnect, he found one more file. It was labeled Emergency Protocol 0. His eyes widened as he read it. They're desperate. If they start losing the war badly enough, they'll... He couldn't even finish the sentence. The Council's backup plan would kill billions across the galaxy just to maintain their power. Guards approaching from both directions, the AI warned. No clear escape route. Marcus smiled grimly. Then we make one. He pulled out another device, this one of pure human design. When he triggered it, every computer in the room would broadcast its contents across all quantum communication channels. The Council's secrets would be exposed to everyone. Broadcasting in 3, 2, 1. Alarms blared throughout the facility. The guards rushed in, weapons ready. But they were too late. The truth was already spreading across the galaxy, jumping from planet to planet, ship to ship. No one could stop it now. Marcus raised his hands as the guards surrounded him. You know what the funny thing is? He said to them. We would have shared all our innovations with you. Humanity wanted to help everyone advance, but you were so afraid of change that you chose war instead. The guards took him away, but Marcus kept smiling. The Council's biggest secret was out. They weren't mighty protectors of peace. They were thieves who had been lying to the galaxy for 3,000 years. And now, every species in the galaxy would know the truth about their so-called leaders. The Council's capital world burned with the light of 1,000 ships. Not just human vessels, but ships from dozens of younger species who had risen up after learning the truth. Admiral West stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching as the final battle for the galaxy's future began. They're activating Emergency Protocol 0. Lieutenant Davis shouted. Energy readings from the Council's central tower are off the charts. West knew what that meant. The Council would rather destroy everything than give up their power. The device they had hidden in their tower could send a quantum wave across the galaxy, destroying all advanced technology. They thought this would reset everything back to their control. Send the signal to Dr. Gray's team, West ordered. The archaeologist and his people had spent the last week placing Bright One devices around the capital. Now it was time to see if the ancient technology still worked. On the planet below, the Council's Grand Chamber was in chaos. The Grand Speaker's silver skin had turned almost black with rage as younger species denounced them one after another. You cannot do this, the Grand Speaker roared. We kept the peace for 3,000 years. You kept us weak for 3,000 years, corrected the Star Walker representative. You stole our innovations, killed our pioneers, and called it peace. High Commander Reed stood with his troops, ready to defend the Council to the end. But even he could see they were losing. More ships arrived every minute, not just warships, but civilian vessels from every species that wanted to witness the Council's fall. Protocol 0 is at 70%. Someone shouted. Once it reaches full power, all advanced technology in the galaxy will be destroyed. That's when Marcus Smith, still in chains from his capture, started laughing. Everyone turned to look at him. What's so funny, human? Reed demanded. You still don't understand, do you? Marcus said. You think technology is just machines and weapons, but it's not. It's knowledge. It's innovation. It's the desire to make things better. You can destroy every piece of advanced technology in the galaxy, but you can't destroy the knowledge of how to make it. And humans will just build it all again, better this time. As if to prove his point, the Bright One devices activated. A strange field appeared around the Council Tower, containing the energy of Protocol Zero. The Council's ultimate weapon was trapped in a bubble of space-time, harmless. "That's impossible," the Grand Speaker cried. "That technology is beyond even our understanding." "Exactly," Marcus said. "There's always something new to learn. That's what you never understood. The galaxy doesn't belong to those who want to keep things the same. It belongs to those who want to make things better." Admiral West's voice came through every speaker in the chamber. "Your choice is simple. Surrender now, or we'll let Protocol Zero destroy your tower. And only your tower, thanks to the containment field. Either way, your rule ends today." The council members looked at each other. For the first time in 3,000 years, they faced something they couldn't control, couldn't steal, and couldn't destroy. One by one, they lowered their heads in surrender. As her troops secured the council chamber, West turned to her crew. "Send word to Earth. Tell them it's over. The galaxy is free." Marcus walked to the council's grand window, his chains removed. Below, he could see people of all species celebrating in the streets. Ships filled the sky, their lights turning the night into day. "What happens now?" Lieutenant Davis asked. "Now," Marcus smiled. "Now the real work begins. Building something new, something better. Not just humans, but all species working together. Creating instead of controlling. Learning instead of fearing." He looked up at the stars, not just tiny points of light now, but doorways to endless possibilities. "The council thought they were preserving peace," he said, "but they were just holding back the future. And the future belongs to those who are brave enough to face it together."